All right, moving on to your liabilities. You'll notice this one is all blue. It's all enterable. These instructions here at the top of the page are very good. Again, the page is designed to help you keep track of your funds and stay on top of your bills. It allows anyone who looks at your books to know exactly where the group stands at any moment. The prior amount and the current amount column are used the same way as described. Examples of deferred revenue are funds collected as pre-registration for an event in the future. So if you're finishing your first quarter report and you've collected gate fees for an event that is happening during your second quarter report, that's deferred revenue. So that will appear. It's not event income yet. It is deferred revenue. Payables are any funds owed to a third party that have not yet been paid. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. And other liabilities. Okay, I'm going to keep moving if no one has any questions. Inventory detail, this isn't used nearly enough. Inventory, remember, is things that you intend to sell, whether it's for a profit or not. If it's just being reimbursed for the expense of the item, it still belongs on inventory. If you're collecting money for it, it belongs in inventory. So those known world handbooks are a great example. Some groups keep them to sell to newcomers. They should be here. If you're going to sell gate books to your event, if you're going to sell belt favors, anything that you're going to make and sell, bake sale, you need to use the inventory page. It's pretty self-explanatory. You may have to go through it once or twice to get everything in the right square. But if you're having difficulty with it, reach out to me, let me know. We'll get it working properly. Everyone knows that not everything that you intend to sell makes it to saleable condition before it is actually sold. So if you bought a bunch of known world handbooks and now they're out of date, they're old editions, get them out of your inventory. They are removable. Everyone knows that you lose money on things occasionally, so don't think you have to let it keep writing because you have no way to get it off your books. You do. I may have to mute myself. It depends on that call that just came in. Okay, so if anybody has any questions about inventory, I'm happy to walk them through at the time. If you are buying something for sale and the raw materials cost you less than $250, it can be expensed. So they only want, you know, items of considerable value to be entered on inventory. Anything less than that would be expensed. So this is the new warning on the regalia page. The regalia page still appears because we're getting used to it. But this section will be going away. So nothing new will be entered into regalia going forward. So here's where you would enter your minor inventory, and this is basically hardly necessary. If you've expensed something, you don't need to enter it here. They're not overly concerned about minor inventory, so just expense it. Released or sold assets. And this is where you get rid of all of those old things that are lingering on your report forms. You know, that old pavilion, no one even knows where the pavilion is anymore. The rats got it, somebody threw it away. We're not sure where it went. List it here. You've released it. And your income can be zero because it got thrown away. But this is where you legitimately get it off your report. Things can't just disappear. Maisel gets real cranky when things disappear. So be sure to list it here. And if you have a lot of things that you need to remove, do a few at a time, you know, a few a year, a few a quarter, just add more lines, send me a letter telling me we're getting rid of all of this stuff. Get it off your books. You don't need to be tracking old stuff that nobody can find and it's nasty and nobody wants it. So make it go away. Depreciation detail. Here's the other nightmare tab from the report, financial report. Sorry, I'm catching up in my notes here, pardon me. So as I discussed, the limit for depreciable items went from $500 to $2,000, and now it's being restructured entirely. So for 2020, any item that is valued under $2,000 will be removed from regalia. These items must be moved to your property list, and you must continue to track these items. Your 2020 year-end report will be modified, and new starting numbers will be provided for 2021. So everybody's records are going to change, regardless of whether you had regalia or not. I guess a group with no regalia and no depreciable items may not see any changes, but I wouldn't count on it. They're changing quite a bit. So that's why I've asked everyone to just hold your horses. Don't start using this new version 6 report quite yet. Keep doing what you're doing. That way we can make a clean slate of it. For 2021, items that are valued at $2,000 or more each will be moved to the depreciation 7-year schedule. These items must have a purchase date. That's why I need you all to make guesses. There's a lot of items on our depreciation lists that have no date. I need your best guess. I really do. Ask the old timers in your group. And then if you just can't get anything, make something up. Go as far back as anybody can remember that item was in use and add that date. So new items with a value of less than $2,000 each are simply expensed and added to the group's property list. There is no official page tab for a property list. However, the freeform tab in the report is an ideal place to keep it. The group's Exchequer is responsible for tracking what the group owns and where it's stored. 5-year depreciation is trailers and electronic equipment. Don't ignore the first column. That's this column here. This column is a drop down. You can see right there. Make sure you fill in. Is the item OA, AR, or FR? They're mostly going to be activity related. Most of our property is activity related. I guess a printer could be office or a computer.
That's what they used to be.
Yeah. Not many groups own them anymore, computers or printers.
In part because their value doesn't last as long as the depreciation on them.
Right. So going forward, the purchase year is quite critical. Make sure that's added. They're not going to tolerate blanks here anymore. 7-year depreciation. So that's going to be everything that moves over from your regalia. Some items will be removed altogether. We're going to wait and see what goes where. The first column drop down is important. Make sure you click on that first column drop down. And that determines which line it goes on your liability detail, your asset detail on the tabs we looked at earlier. So make sure you collect the right category. And things, soft goods like cloaks and tablecloths and stuff like that, that shouldn't be on your depreciation list. That should all be in your property list. Even thrones, you know, they don't live very long. So most of that stuff can go onto your property list. Transfers in. See that banner? We now have a place to enter our income through PayPal and SCARS. It is not a transfer in. Just take note of that. It's not a transfer to you from the society. This is one of the main ways that you're going to receive funds. Most groups receive funds from Great Western War or Potrero or income split with another group for whatever. Anyway, income wouldn't go here. I don't know what I'm thinking. But anyway, you're going to be getting.
Question on that, Cara. When a local group gets a check from PayPal, that's actually a check from Kingdom, right?
You're correct. You're correct. I stand corrected.
So in that case, it would be a transfer.
I'm going to have to check that.
Okay.
Okay, so what's likely going on there is that depending, they're basically subdividing it, because the whole point of transfer in and transfer out is to balance them at the end of the year. So what they're doing is they're shifting those into their own category. So you don't have to, they get matched up in a different place.
Correct. But I will find out exactly where she wants that data entered.
Isn't it on the other form that's based off the yellow highlight?
On 11B?
Yeah.
No.
Then they really do need to update that little alert then, because that's going to cause problems.
Yeah. That's why I said I will check on that and get a ruling, because that's kind of confusing. And remember, this is brand new, all of these headings and flags, because this just came up at the end of 2019. So no one has started using these version 6 reports yet. Well, no one is supposed to have started using these version 6 reports yet.
You saw my direct message, right?
Oh, no, I didn't. Anyway. Yeah.
We have one exception.
Yes. At least one. There might be more. So, so all of these transfers, they must have the properly completed transfer form in your files, in your records, preferably with a copy of the check attached to it. The copy of the check has saved our patootie more than once. So there's a great little app that's free for your phone. Cam Scan, I'm reading Sharon's lips. It really is a great little app. You just snap a picture with your phone and you can email it to yourself, and it's really, really handy. Even just a JPEG that you can print out and attach to your phone, anything really helps, because those transfers really can turn into a nightmare, and everybody thinks they remembered when they deposited or when they received it, and checks get lost. And I'll admit I've had a check sitting in the bottom of my basket far too long. So do your homework, take a picture, attach it to the form, get it entered in a timely manner, and we will all thank you greatly. Tracking down lost checks and uncashed checks can just ask Lay Serena about Great Western War. She has struggled with that a lot. They're quite a nightmare. So when you're entering transfers, this page can fill up pretty quickly, especially if you're a larger group. So if you'll notice over here on the right-hand column, this is tab 9, and that's where they transfer in detail falls in the page order. But one page may not be enough. So if you scroll down, you'll find more transfer pages. So there's a 9B, a 9C, a 9D. Now again, the small report form isn't going to include those extra pages. You may not fill a whole page for a small group, but larger groups do. And for a really unusual year, we may have to add even more extra pages for transfers in. So if you find that you're running out of room, it may be time to bump up from the small to the medium size report form, or from the medium to the large size report form. You may only have to do that for 1 year, but it's there if you need it. Remember to look out of order, because like I say, these are numbered 1 through 11, and then they start jumping all over the place. We have 2C and 2D way down here. So if you find that you're really struggling to fit everything, scroll around, look around. There might be a solution, an extra tab where you can enter the data you have. If you have to, you can put more than one transaction on a line and add them together. I don't like it, but there it is. You can do it. Just make good notes so that when you're trying to straighten all this out, we can find it. The whole point of this is to track your expenses, track your income, track everything. Okay, it appears here again in my notes, funds received from PayPal and SCARS are not transfers. Should be reported as income. I'm going to get a good ruling on that, a good firm ruling on that, and I'll let everyone know what the final word is, especially on PayPal. It sure does seem like it should be a transfer to me.
Okay, I think they're counting it as event income if we're taking for payment for events. So that's why I think they're rolling it in that way. Obviously, you need to get the final say so, but that's what I expect is happening.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, so that's within kingdom. You transferred from one barony or canton or shire to another, or from heralds to collegium or whatever happened. And then we have outside the kingdom. These are transfers in still, aren't they? Yes, we're still on transfers in. So if your group had someone who went to Estrella and they did some volunteer hours and dedicated it to the branch, this is where you would record it. And it gets a little fishy when you're transferring money between a subsidiary and a corporate branch. So again, if you've made an entry here and I come back and ask you to move it, that's probably why. For instance, Gulf Wars or Penzic. Penzic is a subsidiary, so their money goes in different directions. So we'll worry about that if it happens, because it's so very, very rare. But I could come back and say, nope, we need to move this. On the transfer out page, I apologize. We have construction going on. Is that too noisy? No? Okay, good.
I didn't hear anything at all.
Can't hear
Okay.
anything.
So transfers out within kingdom, that's when you're sending money to another branch, of course. Maybe it could be tons of reasons, any reason that you're sending money out to another branch. So within kingdom and in the same country. So, you know, NMRs, all of that stuff is going to be entered here. Block A, this is where you're going to put the society payments for insurance for events. So this is a funds transfer to the SCA, which is outside of our kingdom, but in the same country. We're sending money to the SCA Inc. Please be sure to include the name of the event. And I really, really appreciate it when, if it's anniversary, it could be 2021 anniversary at so-and-so park. Truly, the more identifying information you can include, the better, because it can get a little sticky when we're trying to figure out thousands and thousands of transfers. So help us out, be verbose, put lots of information, the check number, not the date you processed it or you handled it, the actual check number, the check date is what I meant to say, and the amount. Outside the kingdom, same country, kingdom or branch. I'm not going to get a lot of those. And here's our income. So fundraising event, and this is another place where I might say, can we swap that instead of internal? It needs to be external, or we're just gonna, you know, the auditors may make this change because it fits better on one block than the other. Don't get overly worked up about it, and just do the best you can. Make sure you give us lots of information that makes sense to a non-SCA person, and we'll get this all figured out. So this is where you enter the, let's see, the internal. Details for any activities at SCA events or functions where you did something to earn money. The main target audience is our own people who are participants. These activities may include t-shirt sales, bake sales, car washes, pass the hat for a specific purpose, name the purpose, etc. So fundraising within our group. For external fundraising, enter details for any non-medieval activities, usually away from SCA activities, where you did something to earn money. Main target audience is people who are not participants, who are not members. These activities are basically the same: t-shirt sales, bake sales, car washes. If we've done a demo and they're going to pay us for a demo, that can be external fundraising, which I highly recommend. If you have the opportunity and can provide a crew to do an external demo and make some money, it's a good fundraiser. And of course, to restate, raffles and online auctions are disallowed. And if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Making up a different name doesn't make it approved. A raffle is a raffle and an auction is an auction. So everyone will try to make up a different, we'll call it something else. That doesn't matter. It's not the name, it's the action. This direct contributions block, you'll notice that there is nothing enterable here. So this is where the total from your data entry on another page will appear. So you can ignore this here because it's not editable. You're not expected to do anything here. Oh, here's the income from demos. Oh, I forgot it had its separate block. So if we charged a fee to do something for other groups, it would go here. If we did a demo for a group, it would go here. It has its own block. If we were paid to provide a service, like serving dinner, or if we agreed to be on display for a church or school group, you know, people in garb just kind of standing around for background ambiance, it would go here. If we charge a fee to perform a service, such as herald's fees or authorizations, they would go here. So if we charge a fee. Moving on, this is adjusted gross event income. And remember, you're not going to have an amount to enter here until sometime after your event. It's going to take time to process refunds. It's going to take time to balance your books, to figure out all the information that's needed. Once you know your event income, then you can enter it here. So you have a field for everything that you took in. So gate fee, feast, classes, everything. You subtract the refunds, and then you have gross event income. Does that make sense to everyone? And look, here's our PayPal and SCARS event income. So we have income from either option. Gross transaction fees, as a reminder, to help us remember that we have to pay the transaction fees, and it will automatically calculate the total. I think that pretty much explains what they're looking for. A quick reminder, we never ever give guests refunds out of the cash box. If a guest writes us a check and they want a refund, we send them a check later. We do not take cash out of the cash box and give them a refund at gate, ever. We need a paper trail. Advertising income. This section's almost never used. It's a bit of a dinosaur. If you believe that your group has earned advertising income, you might want to contact me and we'll talk about it. If you feel comfortable entering it here, I might contact you and ask you a couple of questions because it's so rare. But because we don't do newsletters anymore, so there's not much opportunity for us to provide advertising. And stale checks are no longer donations. They are entered here as a stale check. We used to, in the past, include the stale checks as a donation, but now they want to track that more closely. So now they ask you to itemize the stale checks and do not call them donations. That's kind of a big change. Oh, anytime you have a donation, please do not call it an anonymous donation. Anonymous is a trigger phrase for an accountant, and it conveys the idea that somebody's trying to hide something. So please don't say anonymous. You can say, if you don't know the person's actual name, you can say something like private individual or member. Simply say member, yes. But again, the word anonymous really is a trigger for further investigation. So we like to try and avoid that word. So examples of donations is pass the hat collection without a specific purpose. Normally we want it to be a specific purpose, but if it's not and someone just hands you a handful of cash, it's going to be a donation. And this is something that happens a lot. Keep the change. You've got people coming through gate and the gate fee is $16. They hand you a 20 and they walk away. Keep the change. So this will be recorded as a donation. If a guild decides to give the branch some money, a store gives cash back incentives because the local membership shops there, that's a donation to us. Lost cash that was turned in at an event and is never reclaimed is a donation. And again, not anonymous, unknown individual, and write lost all over it, lost and found. So those are all non-SCA donations. SCA related donations, money given to your branch by kingdoms who are subsidiaries. So if Penzic sent you a check, this is where you would put it. We are not a subsidiary. Entries here would be unusual for you, however, not impossible. They do occur occasionally, but it's going to be rare. So if you have any questions, just give me a shout. All right, moving on. Expenses. Remember that this has a column here for a drop down. Oh, look at that. The drop downs aren't working. But you can type it in. And it sticks. Okay. See how I get to report a bug. That should be a drop down. Use this space to enter the amount you paid to an outside group or publication to be allowed to publish there. Your group decides they want to announce an event in a local college newsletter. Enter any fee they might charge you here. Bad debts. Bad debts are something that we deem as irretrievable. We feel that we have no recourse to get the money back. Be sure to use the drop down. Non-sufficient funds bounce check. Checks that you are not able to recover would go here. If you paid a site deposit, but the event can't happen for whatever reason and they won't return your deposit, that's a bad debt. It would be entered here. You paid for a service, but the company doesn't provide it or disappears. That happens, unfortunately. That bad debt would go here. Be sure to give us a very good reason, because those are going to be scrutinized. So make sure you have a good reason for the bad debt. Anything that appears in this table must have a vote from your financial committee agreeing that the debt is unrecoverable. You've done your due diligence, you all agree, everybody tried, and we give up. Fees and honoria. This one causes some heartburn. We're doing a lot of fees for Zoom subscriptions. Those fees are entered in this block. Fees for DMV trailer registration. Those are fees for trailers. Fees for other services. Those are all entered here. And you have to kind of figure out, if you have a Zoom subscription, how is it used most frequently? Is it used for your officer meetings? Is it used for virtual events? That's what you would choose in the drop-down section. So it might be different for every group. Different groups use them different ways. An honoria. I don't know if everyone knows what an honoria is. It's a payment in recognition of acts or professional services for which custom or proprietary forbids a price be set. So if you had somebody who knows a lot about, I don't know, brass belt buckles in the Middle Ages, and you want them to come and give your group a talk or a class about brass belt buckles, it's kind of tacky to offer them, you know, we're going to pay you to do that, but you can give them an honoria. You can offer them, we'll pay your gas money if you'll come and give us this talk, and you can count that as an honorium. So teachers or guest speakers, or if a person in your group has a pickup truck and your storage unit burnt down last week and you've got to clean up the mess, and that person says, we can use my truck, and you want to pay for his gas and you want to make sure you pay the fees to get into the dump, that's an honoria. So you can cut those fees in this area. So anything that, you know, you don't quite feel right paying them to do the work, but you want to say thank you and help cover the costs, and that's what fits in here. Somebody help me pronounce the word. I'm not doing it well.
Which honoria?
Honoria. Is that right?
That's how I've always heard it.
Okay.
Honoraria.
Honoraria.
There's another syllable in there.
Yeah, it's honoraria.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I knew I was butchering it.
I just read it. I don't usually have to say it.
Yep, that's me. That's why it was coming out all messed up. So a lot of times we call them expenses because we don't quite know what else to call them. But if you're paying it to an individual, then it would go here. If you're paying it to the gas company, it would be an expense. If you're paying it to the dump, it would be an expense. If you're paying back Joe because he did it as a favor, it's an honoraria. I did it. So, okay, hopefully that makes a little more sense. Hopefully I'll see some more entries here. Then I don't have to move over. So that would be helpful.